Blanche Callowell, most commonly known as Cab Callowell's sister, was born in Rochester, New York. By the time she was 10 years old, they moved to Baltimore, Maryland, where her family had originally settled. The Calloway family, consisting of 2 parents and 6 children, were considered middle to upper class in the city they lived in, which was a highly populated African American community.
Due to Blanche's mother's passion for music, Blanche and her siblings were largely influenced by her. As a young child, her mother made her take piano classes as well as vocal lessons, but never introduced or encouraged a musical career on Blanche, and instead hoped she would find a more practical job such as a teacher. Blanche still dreamed of a musical career, while her voice teacher recommended she perform auditions for local shows. She began seeking out a career in music and dropped out of Morgan College in the early 1920s.
Soon after dropping out of college, she began touring with the cabaret troupes like the Smarter Set Company, which was led by 2 brothers, Salem Tutt Whitney and J. Hummer Tutt. After performing as one of the Bronze Beauties, her roles expanded into bigger parts and she became a featured singer. Following the musical Shuffle Along, her career launched.
In 1923, her big break approached in the national tour for Plantation Days with Florence Mills, or the Queen of Happiness, a fellow African-American singer. The tour ended in Chicago in 1927, and Blanche made the decision to stay there because at the time, Chicago was the jazz capital of the world. Her well-known brother, Cab Calloway, also had an interest in music and performed many times. The siblings often entertained at a club known as the Sunset, where Blanche found her main stage. Although her popularity grew in Chicago, she continued to tour nationally. She briefly joined various groups and bands, especially while in New York.
During the time period when Blanche had made a living through music, her career faced many struggles. The music industry was racially segregated and male-dominated, causing her skin color and gender to create discrimination. For example, she had used a woman's gas station bathroom in Mississippi and was sent to jail for disorderly conduct. As an African American, she played in front of segregated audiences. Blanche was given few opportunities outside of singing and dancing due to her gender, and some of her lyrics were deemed provocative and unladylike. She also struggled to find bookings because of her brother's popularity and her career grew largely.
After struggling for success, she had declared bankruptcy and broke up her orchestra in 1938. 2 years later, she formed an ephemeral all-women orchestra as all-female bands were being admired at the time. Blanche soon moved to Philadelphia, where she became a socialite and Democrat committeewoman, and separated from her husband after finding out he was a bigamist. In early 1950s, she moved to Washington, D.C., where she started a job as a manager for a nightclub. After hiring Ruth Brown, Brown credited Blanche with a contract with Atlantic Records.
She then moved down to Florida to become a disc jockey in Miami Beach and eventually was promoted to be the program director of the station. She became the first African-American precinct voting clerk, and in 1958, she was the first African-American woman to vote in Florida. 20 years later, she moved back to Baltimore while becoming an active member of the NAACP and the Congress of Racial Equality, as well as serving on the board of the National Urban League, a historical civil rights organization that were advocates for social and economic justice for African Americans. Around 1964, Calloway and many other African American women protested with the NATO Women's Peace Force in the Netherlands.
She then began a mail-order cosmetic company exclusively for African American women. After moving back to Baltimore, she married her high school love, and after a 12-year battle with cancer, she died on December 16, 1978, at the age of 76.